Imagine waking up one morning to discover that a place most people can't even point to on a map has just flipped a switch that could ripple through every economy on Earth, sending shockwaves through supply chains, commodities, and especially one metal that quietly underpins modern civilization. This isn't about Wall Street hype or a central bank speech. This is about Greenland, ice, geopolitics, and a sudden Arctic lockdown that has detonated silver premiums to levels almost nobody saw coming, with whispers of $137 over spot, making seasoned traders rub their eyes and ask if the market they thought they understood has just fundamentally changed. For decades, silver has been treated as the undervalued cousin of gold, a metal stuck between being money and being an industrial workhorse, but right now it's being dragged into the spotlight by an unexpected actor. And if you own silver, plan to buy it, or rely on industries that can't function without it, what's unfolding in Greenland could matter far more than the latest inflation print or interest rate decision. Part 1. To understand why headlines are screaming that it's over and that Greenland has effectively killed the silver market, we need to slow everything down and build the story from the ground up, because silver doesn't move in a vacuum. And Greenland isn't just a frozen rock at the edge of the world. Silver is one of the most versatile metals ever discovered by humans. It conducts electricity better than any other element. It reflects light, resists corrosion, and has antimicrobial properties. That's why it's inside your phone, your solar panels, electric vehicles, medical equipment, data centers, and even water purification systems. Roughly half of all silver demand today comes from industrial use, not coins or bars, and that percentage has been creeping higher every year as the global economy pushes toward electrification and green energy. Now here's the catch. Silver isn't mined in neat, massive quantities the way iron or copper is. Most silver comes as a byproduct of mining other metals like lead, zinc, and copper. That means supply doesn't respond quickly to price. Even if silver doubles tomorrow, miners can't just flip a switch and produce twice as much. Supply is sticky, slow, and vulnerable to disruptions. This is where Greenland enters the picture, not as a traditional silver mining powerhouse, but as a strategic choke point in the modern resource world. Greenland sits at the crossroads of the Arctic, a region that is no longer just about ice and polar bears, but about shipping lanes, rare earth elements, energy security, and geopolitical leverage. Over the last decade, melting ice opened new Arctic routes that shaved weeks off shipping times between Asia, Europe, and North America. At the same time, Greenland became increasingly important for critical minerals, including rare earths that are often processed alongside or in similar supply chains to silver-bearing ores. When Greenland announced sweeping restrictions under what many are calling an Arctic lockdown, the official language focused on environmental protection, national sovereignty, and security concerns. But markets heard something else entirely. They heard disruption. Think of global supply chains like a finely tuned machine. For years, it's been optimized for efficiency, not resilience. Just-in-time inventories, centralized processing hubs, and narrow shipping corridors keep costs low but leave no room for error. When a key node in that system tightens up, everything downstream feels it. Greenland's restrictions didn't just affect one mine or one port. They introduced uncertainty into Arctic logistics as a whole. Insurance costs for Arctic shipping spiked. Transit times became unpredictable. Some routes were temporarily suspended altogether for bulk commodities that might be inconvenient. For high-value, high-demand materials like silver and silver-related concentrates, it's explosive. Now let's talk about premiums, because this is where most people start to panic. When you hear that silver is trading at, say, $25 an ounce, that's the paper or spot price, largely set on futures exchanges where massive volumes of contracts trade hands, many of which never result in physical delivery. The premium is what you pay on top of that spot price to actually get your hands on real, physical silver in the form of coins, bars, or industry. All-grade supply. In normal times, premiums might be a few dollars per ounce for retail products, reflecting mining costs, distribution, and dealer margins. When premiums explode, it's the market screaming that physical supply is tight, regardless of what the paper price says. Report of premiums pushing toward $137 aren't about everyday silver rounds at your local coin shop. They're about specific forms of silver that industries desperately need and can't easily substitute. High-purity industrial silver, specialized bars, and guaranteed delivery contracts. When a solar panel manufacturer or electronics producer faces the risk of production lines shutting down, price becomes secondary to availability. Paying 5 times spot sounds insane until you realize the cost of not producing is far higher. This is why premiums matter more than spot in times of stress. They reveal the real story behind the headlines. Historically, we've seen this movie before, though never quite like this. During the Hunt brothers episode in the late 1970s, silver prices spiked dramatically as investors tried to corner the market. In 2008, during the financial crisis, silver crashed alongside everything else, only to rebound sharply as monetary stimulus flooded the system. In 2020, when the world locked down, mints shut their doors, logistics froze, and retail silver premiums went vertical even as spot prices briefly fell. Each time, the lesson was the same. Paper markets can say one thing while physical reality says another. What's different now is that the pressure isn't coming from investor speculation or a sudden demand surge alone, but from structural constraints in a world already stretched thin. Greenland's move poured fuel on a fire that was already burning. Global silver supply has been running deficits for several years, meaning demand has exceeded new mine supply and recycling. Above-ground inventories have been quietly drawn down to fill the gap. At the same time, governments are mandating more renewable energy, more electrification, more digital infrastructure, all of which are silver hungry. You can replace gold in jewelry. You can thrift copper with aluminum in some applications. But silver has very few true substitutes in high-performance electronics. When access to key Arctic routes and mineral processing chains becomes uncertain, buyers scramble, inventories vanish, and premiums explode. Ask yourself this: if you were running $1 billion manufacturing operation and your supplier told you that your next shipment might be delayed indefinitely due to Arctic restrictions and geopolitical tensions, what would you do? You wouldn't wait for spot prices to normalize. You'd lock in whatever supply you could at almost any price because your entire business depends on it. Multiply that behavior across dozens of industries and suddenly the silver market stops behaving like a calm, efficient system and starts acting like a stress test. Another layer to this story is geopolitics. Greenland may be geographically isolated, but politically it sits in the orbit of major powers. The Arctic has become a chessboard where the United States, China, Russia, and Europe all have interests. Control over shipping lanes, resource access, and strategic position matters more than ever in a world of fractured globalization. When Greenland tightens rules, it's not just an environmental decision. It's a signal. Markets hate signals they can't easily quantify. Uncertainty itself carries a premium. And right now, that uncertainty is being priced directly into physical silver. This is why. Some analysts are saying it's over, not because silver will disappear tomorrow, but because the old assumptions no longer hold. The idea that silver is always abundant, cheap, and easily sourced is colliding with a reality of constrained supply, rising strategic importance, and fragile logistics. The Arctic lockdown didn't create these problems, it exposed them. Like a sudden cold snap that cracks old pipes, Greenland's move revealed weaknesses that were already there. And once you see those cracks, you can't unsee them. So where does this leave investors and everyday viewers trying to make sense of the chaos? If you only watch the spot price, you might think nothing extraordinary is happening. If you watch premiums, delivery times, and industrial contracts, you're seeing a market under strain. This diver, gents, is confusing, frustrating, and potentially dangerous if misunderstood. It raises uncomfortable questions. Is the paper silver market accurately reflecting reality? What happens if more buyers demand physical delivery? Can recycling fill the gap quickly enough? And how far can premiums go before something breaks as we move forward? The story isn't just about Greenland or even silver itself. It's about a global system that's learning the hard way that efficiency has a cost and resilience has value. Silver sits at the intersection of money, industry, and geopolitics, and that makes it uniquely sensitive to shocks like an Arctic lockdown. Whether this marks the beginning of a long-term structural repricing or a violent but temporary dislocation is the question everyone is now asking, and the answer depends on what happens next, because